Hey guys, I'm Cerise. Welcome to my channel. Today is Relationship Wednesdays, and I have a little story for you. What I like to do with Relationship Wednesdays is tell a little story first, and then we can all get a lesson from it later. I'm in my pajamas right now. I just got back from the beach. I did a live to air. Look out for that. That was on Sunday. Today is Wednesday. So look out for that live to air. Oh, it was so beautifully sunny out today. But this video is not about the live to air Sosua Sundays. This is about Relationship Wednesdays. And this story is definitely a dinger. And it's something that I think we can all learn from. Okay, so there's a gentleman and he came here from America. Hey guys, before we go on with the story, I do want to remind you that Relationship Wednesdays is a new feature on my channel. So please, if you have a story, just give me a shout, especially if it entails a lesson that you learned or that somebody that you know has learned along the way. All right, let's get back into the story and put your comments down below. So this gentleman, he went to the motorcycle company where it's one of the biggest motorcycle companies in Santo Domingo. And of course, there's a lot of motorcycle companies, so you will never guess which one it is. And he went there because we do need to remain anonymous. And he went there and he was buying a motorcycle. And now the woman that he was buying the motorcycle from, she was actually part owner. He didn't realize this. And she didn't tell people. She was never really in the habit of telling people who she was because her dad passed on many years before in a moto accident. And the business was left to her and her brother. She doesn't have to work at the dealership, but she chooses to work at the dealership because she likes to keep her eye on things, and she's not married and she doesn't have children. So she does a lot of the big purchase intakes when people go in there with cash and they're not doing financing and they just want to buy cash straight out. Well, he was going in there cash straight out, and he wanted to purchase three motorcycles. Now, this was all cash he was going in with. And so she wanted to make sure that she dealt with him. So they sat down and she started to sign the papers, and he was smitten immediately. He said to her, are you single? She said, yes. And she was also smitten by him. And he's like, well, maybe we can go out sometime. And she's like, well, I'll give you my phone number and you can give me a shout. She's like, well, how long are you here for in the Dominican Republic? And he said that he lives in Santiago. And she was like, oh, okay. How long have you been living in Santiago for? And he said he was living there for about 2 years now. And so she gave him her phone number and he proceeded to call her that night. They spoke on the phone the entire night. At first they were texting back and forth on WhatsApp. And then he's like, is it okay if I call you? And she's like, yes, absolutely. He's like, can you come to my place right now in Santiago? I'll send a car for you. And she's like, no, I have work tomorrow. And he's like, that's okay. I'll send you back home. And she's like, no, that's okay. And she said to him, she said, listen, I really love my job. She didn't tell him she was half owner. She said, I really love my job. I enjoy working my job. I don't want to be late for work tomorrow. If you want to see me, you can come back to Santo Domingo, the capital, on the weekend, and we can go out for lunch. And he was like, oh, come on, take the day off work. I'll pay for what you make for the day. And she's like, no, not at all. So he's like, okay, all right. So he went to Santo Domingo on the weekend and he met up with her. And once they met up at a restaurant, she said to him, okay, very nice to see you. Thank you for lunch. It was great. And he's like, wait, where are you going? He's like, can't you just come back with me? It's the weekend. You can't come back to Santiago with me? And she's like, not yet. And he was like, why? Why can't I go back with you? She's like, I'm not ready yet. It's just too soon. And he's like, too soon for what? You can come, you can hang out with me in my pool. I'll have my maid make us something to eat. She's a really good cook. And then she said, no, I am definitely not going to go back to your place with you. She really felt like he was in heat. These were the exact words she said. And she wasn't about to go back to his place or anything of that nature. And he said, okay, wait. can we go to the movies? Let's at least go to the movies. I'm not finished this date yet. Like, I really just came all the way to Santo Domingo, and it's only like an hour and a half or whatever from Santiago. And he's like, I already came all the way here to see you. I just want to hang out with you a little bit longer. Is that possible? And she said, okay, let's go to a park. So they went for a walk and near a park, and they got ice cream, and then they ended up being on a date for the whole entire day into the night. After they ate ice cream in the park, she took him to one of her favorite cafes, and then they had coffee. After they went and they had coffee, they actually got hungry again, so they went to a different restaurant and they had dinner. After dinner, they went out to a little club and they had drinks. And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm really enjoying my time with you. You're just such a lovely person. And I just would love to take you home for the weekend. You don't have to do anything with me. Like, I promise you, I'll even give you money. And she's like, no, I'm not that type of woman. I really am not that type of woman. I would really feel comfortable if you just backed off a little bit. Let me make my own, let me feel free to do what I want to do. I don't go home with men. I don't go to their houses. I'm very careful with my reputation. And he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, if you come home with me, you'd never have to work again. And she's like, well, that's, that sounds pretty impressive, but I really enjoy where I work. And he's like, okay, So he let her go that night. He drove her back to her car because her car was still at the restaurant, the initial restaurant that they met at. And she hopped in her car and she went home. That was it. He messaged her all night, like back and forth. They spoke for hours. And then the next day he went back to Santo Domingo and he was hanging out with her again. And she was just like, wow, okay, this guy is quite polite. This guy is really nice. And then, all week they spoke. And then he said to her, he's like, this weekend, I want you to come to my place. You can't say no. We have a connection. You like me. I know I like you. Like, we're not kids any longer. Like, we're not in college. You can come to my house and you can trust me. She's like, no, I'm not ready. And again, he's like, okay, well, I'll wait. So then the next weekend after that, they went and they met up. He went all the way to Santo Domingo again. And they pretty much repeated the weekend that they did prior. They just went to a few different places. Then the third weekend, he went back to Santo Domingo and they were hanging out. And then he said to her, is it okay if we rent a hotel room? And she said to him, listen, I am not ready for anything than kissing and hugging and cuddling. This is the only thing that I am ready for right now. I'm not prepared for anything more than that. And he said to her, okay, no worries. Like, I understand. I can see the type of woman you are. I just want to sleep with you, but I don't need to go all the way. And she's like, well, by this point, she was also kind of losing her strength, if you will, because they were just perfect together. The kissing and the hugging and the cuddling, and there's only so much you can do in the car, and there's only so much you can do at a club or at a cafe, and she really did want to go to the next base, but not the third base. They already went from, she didn't want to do a home run, so to speak. They already went past first base, they were at second base, and that's where she was comfortable at. So she said to him, as long as we can go to the hotel, and you respect my boundaries. And he said, absolutely. So they did. They went to the hotel, and she didn't give it up at all. And he was shocked. He tried, but he didn't try too much, and he still respected her boundaries. Everything was beautiful. She had the most lovely night, and she respected him so much for not going too much, like in the deep dive of wanting to go too far. And she was like, wow, this guy is perfect. But then after he dropped her off to her car, she went home and she was just in awe. She was in la la land. She was thinking, finally she can meet a guy, and now she was ready to tell him who she was. She was ready to reveal to him that, the next time they go out on a date, she's ready to go all the way third base. And it was going to be, she was thinking, the following weekend, which would have been their fourth weekend chilling out. And the next day, he didn't call her. He didn't contact her at all. And she was like, what is going on? So then she contacted me because she has seen a few of my videos and she knows that I'm a soul coach. And she said to me, she's like, you know what? I don't know how this works, Cerise. All I know is that I see your videos and I see a lot of your advertising on Instagram. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And I said, and when she filled me in, I said, well, do you usually text him first in the morning? She's like, no, he always texts me first thing in the morning on WhatsApp. He leaves me a voice note and he says, hi, beautiful. Did you sleep well last night? And he didn't do it. And I said, okay, well, you might want to do it. You might want to reach out. Maybe he feels that, he's doing all this traveling back and forth and he's investing everything into you. You might just want to reach out. And I did catch a vibe that he was probably feeling he was investing way too much and getting very little back, right? Because, yes, he is right. They're no longer children. They are adults. They're not in college any longer, so he is right. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that because you are no longer children and you're adults that you give up on what your morals are. And so she felt like, why should she contact him? He should contact her. And I said, well, just give a little. Don't make him do everything. Contact him because it might show him that you did enjoy your time. And so she contacted him and she's like, hey, how you doing? I didn't hear from you. Is everything okay? He got back to her immediately and he's like, yeah, I just wanted to give you a little bit of space. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm forcing you into something you don't want to do. And she's like, you're not. Like, I really enjoyed my time with you in the hotel room. It was amazing. Never had a night like that with a man. And he's like, well, I do have needs. And she's like, well, yeah, and we will make sure we take care of those needs. And he's like, when? And she's like, in time. We'll get there, but it's only been like 4 weeks. It's only been 1 month. I've only seen you 4 times. And he's like, we slept in the same bed together and I held you all night. Like, do you know what that does to a man? Like, you're beautiful. I just wanted to love you up. He's like, and you just allowed me to spoon you. You didn't even give me anything else. And she was like, well, what else am I supposed to give you? And he's like, well, if you don't want to go all the way, we could have done a little something that's between second base and third base, And she was like, well, I'm sorry, we can. Like, I felt very uncomfortable in regards to doing that. And he wasn't hearing it. And he said, you know what? I think you're looking for a different type of man. And I really feel that I'm not that man for you. I think maybe you've been really hurt, or maybe you're trying to play like you are not easy. He's like, it's not like I'm going to disrespect you. It's not like I'm going to let you go. It's not like I'm going to just use you and then stop talking to you. I really like you. He's like, but I don't want to feel like we're kids. And so she understood. And she said to him, okay, well, if you need some time to think about how much you want this, then take as much time as you would like. But I am not sorry for the fact that I did not go further with you. I was in my comfort zone and I feel very safe that way. And so about a week went by and nothing happened. He did not contact her and she did not contact him. 2 weeks went by and she reached out and she contacted him. And she said, hi, I just want to know how you're doing. I just want to know, if you want to come into town and maybe we can go for an ice cream. And he's like, why don't you come to Santiago? Why don't you come a little bit of the way? Why don't you use some of your gas and your time? And of course, she contacted me and she's like, Cerise, I just don't know what to do. She's like, I understand where he's coming from, but we had such a great build up to the fourth date. Everything was perfect. I didn't do anything wrong. And I said, you know what? He's frustrated. Well, he put in the work that he felt is suitable. And now he's feeling like you need to go and put a little bit of work in as well. So she's like, okay, well, what do I do? Do I go to his place? I'm like, you know what? If what you feel comfortable with. If you already feel comfortable going, they already slept in the same bed together, right? And he's inviting her to his place. And I think that's pretty cool. It means that, number one, he doesn't have a woman. Number two, he is sharing something very private with her, his home. And he really wants her there with him. And he didn't do anything wrong in the first 4 weeks that they were together. Yes, he's pushing her before her time, but this is something that's common. It doesn't mean that a man only wants that. Some men, they want that right away, and then they are committed forever. Some men, they'll wait for a while, and then when they get it, they skedaddle. So many men are so many different ways. He even said to her, he's like, I'm just not into these games. I think you're just a little immature. You're just a lot younger, I think, than what I need right now. I'm looking for a woman. I want to make love to my woman. I want to be with my woman. And he's like, you just seem like you're just not interested in that. He's like, I'm not in a playground. Like, this is real world stuff. And she's like, okay, you know what? I'll come to your place. When she got to his house, she had plans to leave his house that night. He had plans for her to sleep over. And not in his bed. He said to her when she arrived, he's like, come on, let's sit down. He had a nice studio set up where they could, like a movie theater room, beautiful, gorgeous, big lounging chairs. And he got her some wine. She sat back and comfort like a queen. And he did not try to go above and beyond. She was watching TV with him. And then the evening time was coming and she said to him, okay, I'm going to go. And he's like, don't leave. Please don't leave. And she's like, well, I have to go. And he's like, oh, please don't go. He goes, you don't have to stay in my bed with me, even though we already slept together already. And, in the hotel room, he's like, I have so many rooms here in my house. You can just stay in the spare room. I don't want you to leave. Please just stay. I want to wake up and look forward to you being here. I want us to go for a swim in the pool in the morning, go for a walk, have something to eat. Please stay. And she wouldn't stay. She just felt insecure and she felt like she was not ready. So he said, okay, well, you know what? If you leave, I'm just going to feel like this is going to be too hard for me. Like, too hard to get you to where I want you. Like, you're just really being too difficult. And she's like, well, I have to leave. She could have stayed the night at his place. She already was liking him. She already figured out that he's a safe guy. She already felt like, they're kissing and hugging, and they already did fool around a little bit more as well. They did do something at his place between second base and third base. She ended up leaving and going to Santo Domingo. And she left at 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, 1 o'clock in the morning you're leaving? That is not really necessary, especially when you probably are going to wake up around 7. Just go to sleep in the spare room and trust the guy. The maid is there as well. She trusted him 100%. And so he understood, though. He said, okay, you know what? If you have to leave, go ahead and leave. It's okay. I understand. And she left. So that night when, she was on her way home, he messaged her, and because she didn't message him right away when she got in, and he was a little worried about her. And he said, are you okay? Like, he messaged her on WhatsApp, and she said, no, she has a flat tire. And he was like, oh my gosh, where are you? And she told him where she was, and he went out and he got her. Now this is 1 o'clock in the morning, right? And he left and he went to go find her. Now some of you might say that is the universe saying that she needs to just leave her car where it was parked and go back with him to Santiago and then go take care of her car in the morning with him. And that's what he said to her. Like, you know what, just park your car and come back with me to Santiago, because they were closer to Santiago than they were Santo Domingo. And he said, and we'll take care of this in the morning. And she's like, no, I'd rather take care of it right now. And he's like, my gosh, okay. Well, they had to wait for an hour and no one was coming. And then finally they just realized that the place was closed for the night, like roadside assistance, and they weren't going to go. And they were opening up at 9 o'clock in the morning, this one particular place. So he's like, why don't you just come back to my place and go to sleep? She's like, no, I'm going to take a cab to Santo Domingo. And he's like, this is ridiculous. Like, why are you doing this? He's like, you're a very difficult woman. And she's like, well, I have my standards. I really have my standards. Now, there's a place and time where we have to look at our standards. If we're with a person that we can tell is a really good guy, and he just wants to take care of us ladies, sometimes we have to also understand that not everyone is out to get us, you know? So he said to her, I'm going to drive you to Santo Domingo. And she's like, okay, but you know, you're like, I don't want you to know where I live, so can you drop me off, like, you know, a couple of streets over? And he's like, you don't want me to know where you live and you were just at my house? And the reason why she didn't want him to know where she lived is because, of course, she lived in a huge estate, a beautiful home. You know, she still wasn't telling him how wealthy she is. And so she wanted to still keep that a secret. You know, she was giving him absolutely nothing. And so at this point, he said to her, he's like, I'm not going to drop you on the street, a couple of streets over, because by the time we get there, it's going to be around 4 o'clock in the morning. And I don't understand why you would want to do this. So I'm going to drop you off at a hotel. And I'm going to walk you into a hotel and I'm going to tell them that I'm leaving you there because I don't want to have anything to happen to you. And then, you know, he gets in trouble for it. So she's like, okay, that's okay. So then they did that. He took her to a hotel. They walked into the hotel lobby. He went to the front desk and he left her right there. He got back in his car and he drove back home and just did not message her again. He felt like she was just a whole load full of problems. And he even said to her, he's like, I don't care if you live in a shack. Don't be embarrassed where you live. Like, that's what he was thinking, that she lives in like a little shack and that she's embarrassed. And he's like, I don't even care if you live in a hole in a wall. It really doesn't matter to me. I just want to make sure you get home safely. And she's like, no, it's okay. So she was allowing her stubbornness to prevent this relationship, this union from actually unfolding. And then, you know, he didn't bother messaging her again. And then, of course, you know, she messages him and he doesn't answer. She messages him again and he doesn't answer. She calls him and he answers. And she's like, hi, are you ignoring me? And he's like, you know what? I don't feel you and I are compatible. I feel you're a very difficult woman. I think you've been hurt. And I can't deal with that. I need a woman that is going to come to me. She's going to be easy. You know, he's like, by this point, we should have already been intimate. By this point, we could be holding each other. By this point, I would just be giving you a lot of love and just showing you that I'm not using you. And so she was like, okay, you know, and he's like, I've lost interest. And she's like, okay. Now, instead of saying to him, look, you know, and just coming clean with him. And she didn't say anything. Stubborn. And that's what gets a lot of women into problems. They are stuck in their ways and they feel like they have to be like Miss Goody Two-Shoe. Now, granted, I understand. But if a man is real and you get a good vibe from this man, and he is just continuing to make you feel comfortable, continuing to treat you like a queen, continuing to make sure that you are safe, you can't just be wined and dined and then, make an effort one time and then still, keep your corner and hold your corner. I think overall, I'm not saying that she needed to go back to his place and, climb in his bed after 4 weeks, but she could have went back to his place and stayed in the spare room. It was only a few hours. And then after when they woke up in the morning, especially if her car is parked in a safe area, all they do is they grab some breakfast and then they go tend to her car. This is what he wanted to do. Easy peasy. He wanted to care for her, and she wouldn't allow him to do it because she was too stubborn. So then she allowed about 1 month to pass, and then she contacted him and she said, listen, I was wondering if we could go out for dinner. And he's like, I'm not really interested. And she's like, I really want to talk to you. And he's like, you know what? There's nothing to say. I don't think we're compatible. And so now she messaged me and she's like, Cerise, I need help. I need to change my mindset. I really need to get myself to a point where I am not getting in the way of myself, and I'm opening up myself to relationships, and I'm allowing love to flourish. So I said to her, I said, you know what? Leave him a message on WhatsApp. Open up to him and let him know exactly where your head was from the time that you guys met. Explain to him that throughout your life, you have always been taught not to tell people how much wealth you have. You have always been taught to be humble, and you've never put yourself out there with many men because you're afraid to be used and you're afraid to be hurt. And so she did that. She left him a big, long message. I helped her write it, and she sent it to him. And he called her, and he said to her, he said, is this all true? She said, yes, it is. And he's like, well, let's sit down and talk. Let's sit down and discuss things. He's like, because you know why? I'm the same way. He's like, why? How do you think I live here in Santiago in this big, beautiful home that I have? And I'm only 35 and I'm retired at a young age. He said, I also have a good amount of money in the bank, and I am also taking care of myself quite well. So you see, sometimes us women, we can get ourselves into situations where we are putting up blocks. We are preventing love from unfolding. We put ourselves in a position where we want to be loved, we want to be held, we want to be respected, we want to grow a relationship, but we get in the way of ourselves because we think that giving in too soon is a sin or it's shameful. There's no really set time when you have to give it up. Some women, they give it up the same night. Some women, they'll give it up a week later. Some women, they will hold out for a very long time. But if you have a vibe with someone, don't just have a certain standard of, I'm going to wait 4 months. My time is 4 months. And don't say to yourself, I'm going to wait 3 weeks. Don't put a time limit on it. Follow your heart. Follow what the vibe is with that person. And I'm not saying go give it up easily either, because it's a sacred thing, making love. It's a very sacred thing. And you just don't want to go throw it around to anyone. It is a very personal thing. Making love and being intimate, it's a very personal thing. And you just don't want to be with someone if you are the type of person that you get attached once you do make love. And she said that to him as well. She's like, in that letter that we wrote together, she said to him, when I make love to someone, it means that we're together. It means we're in a relationship. I don't just make love to someone because it's just like shaking hands. And when I make love to someone, it's because I am committing myself to them. It is with the intention of growing together in a relationship. And he got back to her, and when he did get back to her, he said, "What made you think that I don't want to grow in a relationship with you? Like, why would you put me in the same category as all other men? Why aren't you reading my signs? Why aren't you reading my body language, my words, how much I'm paying attention to you?" You know, he's like, a man can only take so much. He's like, I need a little bit of give and take, a little give and take. He's like, I message you every morning when I wake up, and you only did it once. And the only reason why you did it once is because I didn't message you. He's like, otherwise you would just sit and wait for me to message you all the time. He's like, you got to give a little. And she's like, well, you know, I just thought maybe you wanted that. I just thought maybe you're the one that was messaging me all the time because you liked it like that. And he's like, well, no, I would like for you to contact me every now and again, show me that same little bit of love. He's like, I just felt like after a while I was chasing you. I felt like after a while I wasn't even sure if you wanted me or not. You're beautiful. You have so many options out there. And so now they are actually talking again, and they are dating again. And she slept at his house a few times, and they are at a point now where they were actually intimate, and it was beautiful. And he's still talking to her, and he's still taking rides to Santo Domingo to pick her up, and he's still giving her that same amount of attention that he did in the beginning. You know, so I'm just saying, guys, in the beginning, be very careful. Don't offer women money. It doesn't matter how much money you have either. Don't try to win a woman over with money or over impressing her either. Sometimes women feel like a man is wooing her, overly wooing her in order to get something so he can dip and then dash, you know? So guys, just be cool, be calm, be collective, be yourself, and don't worry about the woman. Let the woman worry about the woman. Just worry about the connection and continue to show her love. If she's showing insecure feelings, then let her know. Come straight out and tell her. Say, you know, I feel that you are feeling a little insecure. If you like, you know, we can step back from each other. You just lead. You let me know what you would like us to do. And let her know. This guy, he stepped back right away, and he got upset, and he started to ignore her and everything because he was just frustrated. He's like, this girl's just playing games. She's just a kid. And, you know, sometimes it can come off like that. So if you're a woman that's not easy, and if you're a woman that really likes to take your time before you get involved, then make that very clear. But also at the same time, be aware that men, a lot of them, especially once you're in your 30s, they are not waiting. They do want a little something, and it doesn't mean they're going to dip and dash. Most times when a man really does like you, it will make him want you even more. So read the signs around you. Look at exactly what it is that you like, what he likes, and try to come together as one. Relationships build through togetherness, through communication, and also sometimes through intimacy. So don't be afraid of it. Embrace it and build upon it. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. And remember that sometimes you have to give a little in order to get a lot. I'm Cerise. Take care. Well, I'm certainly glad that they worked it out. You know, sometimes us women, we do feel that the man is pushing too quickly. And sometimes the men, they get frustrated when a woman holds them off too long. If you have a story that you want to share with me, please do so. I'm looking forward to your comments down below. And also remember, every Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., my local television show called Living Good. It's on Channel 3 in Sosua, Channel 3 in Cabarete, and Channel 44 and 18 in Puerto Plata. I would love for you to be a guest when you're in town. Give me a shout. It doesn't matter what your story is about. You might just want to sit down and tell everyone what you love about Sosua, Puerto Plata, Cabarete, or anywhere in the Dominican Republic. Also, guys, remember, Living Good advertises internationally. So if you have a product or a service that you sell online and you can deliver it anywhere around the world and you're looking for a higher platform of clients and customers, give me a shout because Living Good can definitely help you out. Alrighty. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a wonderful day. Huge hugs, loads of love, big blesses. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.
Oh, let the love shine. Oh, let the love shine. Let the love